Welcome to another edition of the In the Paint Show presented by Ballislife, episode 161. I'm with my co-host Chelsea Hopkins. Our guy Umana is on the road and trying to recover from a long weekend of basketball. It has been a long weekend of basketball as we shoot here on a Tuesday morning. Obviously, the Ballislife All-American Game was this past weekend in Southern California. There was also the Balldawgs All-American Game on Sunday in Las Vegas, and a lot of NBA action. We're going to try to cover it all. So appreciate you guys being with us again for another episode. Chelsea, how's it going?
It's going good, Ronnie. Had a great weekend with my girls. The AAU season is underway. So we had a tournament in Las Vegas. I'm feeling like Eric Spoelstra, made some adjustments from the last tournament, came back, dominated this weekend. So I can't complain. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Again, like we said, we saw kind of the end of the cycle of these national all-star games with this 223 group. Like you said, focused forward is 24, 25, and 26. And then now we're interesting. 27 is going to be coming in high school. That's just crazy to say. But, we got events coming up in terms of like big camps and the Scholastic in June. So like that's the focus, obviously, for the younger kids to develop and get their games right and maybe get some scholarship looks. It's been a very, I think people are finally starting to get it. Like for these younger guys, you see these good high school players in 223, and some of them don't have scholarships. So I think it's going to wake people up. On the boys' side, a few coaches are asking me, what does this kid got? I'm like, doesn't have a D1 offer right now. Wow. So junior college coaches, that type of thing, so lower level coaches. So for your girls, like, what do you tell them that as you make adjustments? Obviously everybody plays a little bit, but you're like, hey, if you're going to be a college player, like you're not just going to come to me and why is my girl not playing more? Like it's just not going to work like that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have a younger group this summer. So this past tournament, I was doing 14 and under. But my actual team for the duration or the rest of the summer, I guess, is 13 and under. So obviously my girls are a ways away from, from even, kind of thinking about college. But, I kind of drill that mindset and that mentality into their heads, from the start. Sure. Everybody gets opportunity, obviously, when you're dealing with kids that young, like everybody's going to get in. But, right. I try to just tell them that, if you have college aspirations, that it's not easy. And college, unlike the situation that you're in right now, is not equal opportunity. Sure. So, you have to let these kids know, like, you have to play well, you have to do well to the best of your ability, to earn minutes and to earn a chance. And you're going to get a chance no matter what here, but you may not get a chance no matter what there if you're fortunate enough to even get a scholarship. Correct. So right now, I try to give them little pieces of information, but I don't want to kind of flood them at a young age. I want the game to be fun. I always am asking them questions. What do you want to go to college? Because you can coach people differently based off of, some girls just maybe are out here having a blast because they love basketball, but some girls are like, no, I want to be in the WNBA. I want to go to North Carolina. So if those are your goals, we still have to start challenging the mindset, right now, even though it's at a kind of young age. So that's the group that I have. I really just try to pour into them. But what we talk about the most is just working really hard, maxing out on effort, and being a star in your role, whatever they think that role is. And sometimes I have to adjust and tell them, this is your role, and we kind of go from there.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. They might have to be good rebounder or a good ball handler. So somebody that is find a role for them. And let me ask you a question, because we talk about it sometimes offline and sometimes on this pod, but like, do some of these girls look up to the younger WNBA stars, or do they kind of like, hey, I like LeBron James and Steph Curry, or do they like say, hey, I follow this girl in college, coach, what do you know about her? This girl in the WNBA, have you met her? Do you know her a little bit? Do you get any of that, or is it still, hey, I like to watch, Steph Curry launch threes and play the Lakers?
It's 100% more, they trend more or tend to know more about the NBA than anything. Okay. I will say we've seen a shift in our girls because we have a WNBA team now. So, We do have the aces. The season is underway. The girls are kind of wearing t-shirts we have practice jerseys now, but before, they like Asia Wilson, they like Kelsey Plum.
Sure.
But I really think it's because our team is here in the forefront.
Sure.
I would say in general, overall, they know way more about Steph Curry, probably than anybody else. I see is the favorite amongst the girls on my team.
Young girls.
We make bets all the time about, hey coach, you owe me 10 push-ups if the Warriors, beat the Lakers tonight. Like, so I definitely know that they're paying attention. We talk to them a lot more about the women's game, and we tell them, yo, if this is where you guys want to be, then these are the players that you need to watch. Sequoia, one of my good friends, also fellow overseas player, but also a coach in our program, she will quiz the girls like randomly, like, okay, name 3 players on the Phoenix Mercury not named Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins, or Brittany Griner. And and the girls have no clue, like legitimately. And then she'll be like,
they don't know. No.
Yeah, all right. And then she's like, okay, well, now we have to run. She was like, if you guys have these aspirations, you need to know these players and you need to watch more basketball. You need to, watch the girls that are in the league that you want to be in one day.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of why I asked you, because we talk about that. And that's the message I try to portray, and said it before, and maybe not straightforwardly, but if you're going to tell us to support you, support your league, everybody, but you talk about Steph Curry and LeBron James all day, the two are not going to match. So hopefully the young girls keep learning from girls such as your Sequoia and yourself, and it keeps happening. And obviously it makes a difference if there's a WNBA team, seems like, in that city.
Yeah, for sure.
or obviously there's a few popular teams, but it definitely helps that the Aces is in Las Vegas. So the W starts next week, 5/19, May 19th, as we're getting toward the middle of the month. So that should be, obviously we had our W preview. Go check that out if you get a chance. The information is still good, very good in terms of your insight there for the teams. But tell us, where are they at? What goes through right now? Let's say you're in a training camp. You've been in a training camp. How many girls are in there, and where do they cut to 11?
Training camp's underway. Preseason games are underway. Camps can be pretty full. Like, maybe on the first day of camp, you can have maybe around 20 girls, a couple girls even, missing. But the way that camp is kind of designed, because some of those key players are playing overseas, they kind of pack camp because they need enough bodies to even, get through whatever the agenda is. So, to have the ability to work on stuff, you have practice guys, but for the most part, you want a lot of players there just to kind of maximize the preparation for what's to come. And then slowly, as you see players return from overseas, then teams are starting to make cuts, balancing it out. And then usually when you get to training camp, lasts probably about 2 weeks or so, a couple preseason games mixed in towards the end of the 2 weeks, 2 to 3 games. And then once you're getting down to those final days, you'll see teams be at a 14-man roster, 13-man roster, and you'll see, those last couple girls kind of drop off to get to 11 or 12. And, you don't have to carry 12 girls. I mean, so that's the even unfortunate part that, sometimes these teams are having 11-man rosters. They're waiting for people to return overseas, so they'll let you hold that spot until they get there. And then when they're back, it's kind of, this is who we have.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's cutthroat. We'll see what happens in terms of, is there an expansion? What's the next step? I know people mentioned that. Many players mentioned that. People that follow the W mentioned that. As far as the grassroots scene, we got events all over. We had the 2 live periods. There's going to be some events on Mother's Day. Nike EYBL is going to be down in Dallas where Ani is. So I know he'll be watching again. And then that's Mother's Day weekend. So hopefully everybody gets to spend some time with their mom. And then, the following weekend might be a slow weekend. Then Pangos Camp will be the first weekend of June 4th through 6th. That'll be in Las Vegas. So I'm sure we might see Ani again, but he did a good job this past weekend at the Ballislife All-American Games. If you guys want to watch the replay, you could. It's on YouTube, the boys and the girls game. 3 separate streams. The dunk contest was there. So Ani was on analyst with me, and he was the second and third quarter with and then I did the first and the fourth quarter. But he did a great job for an event that was really good and turned out to be a good game.
So what were your thoughts on the game? Like you said, Ballislife was Saturday. I think Balldawgs was on Sunday. Balldawgs was in Las Vegas. I didn't have the opportunity to go, but I know you made it down in time, so you saw both games. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, overall, this group did a good job. I would say that, the McDonald's game, that they got a lot of kudos for playing hard as a group, and the Ballislife All-American Game was a group that played hard as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the game went into overtime. So shout out to Scott, our guy Scott Camo, who kind of helped me split the teams up. He's a rock star in that, and it turned out to be a good game. 157-154. Team Future beat Team Elite. Yeah, 157-154. And it was 34-29 Future at the end of the first. It was 69-69 at halftime. So like the game was good. Yeah. The MVP of the winning team turned out to be the highly ranked or most highly regarded player in the field, Justin Edwards, the 6'7" wing forward going to Kentucky. Justin had 27 points, 12 of 19 from the field. Justin kind of redeemed himself because his team was leading with 2 seconds left. He took the ball out of bounds and he threw like he wanted to throw a long baseball pass. And his teammate thought the game was like, okay, the game's over, but the turnover. So the ball's back the other way, back at the other end from where he threw it from. And that gave Marcus Adams, Kansas-bound Marcus Adams from Southern California, everybody kind of knew he might touch the ball. Mm-hmm. At that point, he had like 40 points already. And it's like, okay, can he win it on a three? He had 8 threes in the game.
Oh, my God.
And so he was 8 of 14 from 3. And so people were like, if we can set up an inbound play, the coaches kind of, our street ball team was the coaches, and they kind of like in the last few minutes got a little serious, like this game's close. We called a couple timeouts. So it's like, can he get a shot? So he caught it on the top of the key, kind of pump faked a couple of guys, and he got fouled. So everybody's like, oh, boy. So we were trying to figure out, like, is this a 1-and-1 on the floor or shooting? So the ref called a shooting foul. Everybody's like, oh, he could win the game here. He missed the first one. Everybody's like, oh. So then he made the last 2, got into overtime. And then the Team Future, the blue team, trailed, and then they won it in the last minute. So kind of, and Justin Edwards had some big plays. So he kind of was able to ironically redeem himself from throwing that long ball. So 157-154. His teammate who really gets credit, I think, for his defense on Jared McCain, and not just that Jared didn't have a good game because Jared had 22 points, but like he really guarded him in the last minute or two. Like they really went out, like 2 of the better guards in the country, and Jeremy and Jared played in all the other big All-Star games. So, kudos to them for coming out. And like he really caused a couple turnovers. He caused an errant pass that, the orange team Elite, the losing team, dropped out of bounds.
Excuse me.
So things like that. It really made a difference. His effort really made a difference. Jeremy Fears, Michigan State bound. We had 3 Michigan State bound players in this game. 11 points, 9 assists, 2 steals. But it was just his overall effort toward his last shift that really made a difference. The MVP ended up being Edwards and Marcus Adams. Marcus Adams broke the scoring record for that All-Star game, for the Ballislife game. And it's been around 10 years. This is the 10th one. He had 44 points, 3 steals, 5 assists, 15 of 23 from the field, 4 rebounds. Like, he really had a good game. Like, everybody was like, wow, this guy, because people thought he might be part of the 224 recruiting cycle, but he didn't have any more eligibility left at his high school. So, he's naturally a 223. So he's like, yeah. And he did a good job this season, got a scholarship to Kansas. And people were like, wow, he plays inside for his high school team, but he can show he can handle the ball a little bit like a point forward. And obviously he has a pretty good shooting stroke, and he's a mid-range game that's not bad. So I think on a national level, he showed that he can really do some things. So it was great to see him show out and it to be a really good game. The fans were there for 2 games. That's a long time to sit through a game with the dunk contest in between. So the real star of the show, I think the MVP of the whole show was Coen Carr. He's kind of an undersized four. He's one of the Michigan State trio, and we really wanted to get him out here because he's a high flyer. Some of these guys were high flyers, obviously, but he just played so damn hard, Chelsea. Like he just set the tone immediately. Because even some other guys that are in the grassroots space, they go to many All-Star games. They're like, and they're easy to criticize or be like, they see things that are wrong. They're like, yo, Coen Carr really played hard and like made that game really good immediately. Like the other kids knew that they were gonna have to do a little something because he was gonna embarrass them if they didn't. Like he dunked on a couple of them, like grabbing offensive rebounds. So like they all stepped it up as a group. So shout out to all the guys who played. So Coen Carr was on the winning blue team. Like I said, he really had a great first half. Ended up with 23 points, 18 rebounds. And I'm looking at the stat sheet now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rebounds in the second half. So he had like 12 rebounds in the first half.
Wow.
And just like set the tone. Just with his physical nature. If he can improve his shooting a little bit, he can kind of do a little bit of what a Draymond Green could kind of do. Maybe not that good of a passer, but like that energy, can slide to different positions, guard.
Glue guy.
6'7". Yeah. So he's terrific in that regard. And then the third Michigan State player was Garrick Normand. He had a pretty good game as well. Just kind of solid all around, 14 points, hit some couple 3-pointers. So those guys did good as a group. Just running down some of the other statistical leaders. Again, it was 157, 154, so there was a lot of scoring. Mike Price from Corona Centennial had 21 points for the winning team. 26 points for Wesley Yates the third. That's Ani's guy out of Beaumont, Texas, state champion, two-time state champion. 26 points. He did really well. 11 of 19 from the field. And then for the orange team, the team that unfortunately came out on the losing side, we mentioned Marcus Adams' stat line. Andrew Meadow going to Boise State. 22 points. He had 6 rebounds. He did really well. And then Jared McCain, the Duke-bound point guard, who's Mr. Basketball in California, had 22 points. Again, he just did a lot of little smart things. Jared is a crafty player, strong, gets in the lane. And again, him versus Jeremy Fields was a really good game. So shout out to all those guys and the ones we mentioned. AJ Johnson also had a good game for the Orange team. He's going to the NBL professionally in Australia. He had 17 points, 8 of 12. Just played steady. Didn't do anything. Just played within his game. Didn't try anything too crazy. So the game ended up being good. Again, kudos to the 223 class for really playing the game. It's an all-star game. The Ballislife game is open affair. There's obviously a lot of dunks and highlights, but when it mattered, they really played hard. So that was good. And Sebastian Mack, who played at Coronado, is going to UCLA. He had 15 points in for the winning future blue team, and he came back the next night and was the MVP of the Balldawgs All-American game, and he had 33 points. So he played true Washington, going to New Mexico. His family member Ty Washington was at both games, so good to see him support him, going from kind of like me and Ani making that road trip from LA to Vegas. Coen Carr played in both games. He had an impact in the Balldawgs All-American game. And there was one more player who played in both, Rayvon Griffith, who had 17 points and 8 rebounds on Saturday and had a good showing on Sunday as well. So shout out to those 4 guys for playing in both. Balldawgs, a community affair. A lot of games all day. The last game was very late, meaning the national game. And our guy Neil Carter tries to make it in a community event. It was at Liberty High School, and I think there was girls' games, preliminary games, underclass games. So a long day of basketball for people who supported that event. But yeah, shout out to those 4 guys for playing in both games as we wrap up the all-star circuit. And wanted to mention, of course, the girls' game. Ballislife had their first girls' game, of course. 107-99. Team Future came out on top. The MVPs were kind of the star of and we kind of knew going in. Micaiah Williams going to LSU was one of the stars, 25 points.
Yeah.
Madison Booker She's a big time player. A lot of big time players on the girls' side. Madison Booker going to Texas had 27 points. So those were the two MVPs. Great game. That game was close to the wire as well. Team Future kind of pulled away at the end got a few stops, a few turnovers, but great game. Shout out to all the coaches. Shout out to all, almost 45 players that played. Obviously, we were a little shorter on the boys' side, so the boys got a lot of more minutes.
Yeah.
The girls was a little more packed. It was 12 on 11 on the girls' side, and it was a few less players on the boys' side. So just wrapping that up, and overall, shout out to the whole Ballislife team for putting on a great event. Again, the players get a lot of credit because obviously they made the event, but a lot of it goes into it. Shout out to the production team, the Dave Otis team for producing the two games. And you can go watch the replays. Go find us on our YouTube page, just like you can with our In the Paint show. You can always go back and watch it. Ani's going to put up a couple stories on ballslife.com, just kind of revamping it, rehashing it, just to reviews his standouts, the guys he thought stood out, and then you can watch the replay.
Yeah, I wish I would have had the opportunity to check out the Balldawgs event. I was present last year, and Neil, as you said, is doing his thing. He's just trying to bring the Vegas community together, get some good talent here, and showcase some of these high school players. And what I like about Neil's event too is it caters to a lot of the local players, that aren't so much on the national scene. I think, what did you say? Neil's event has like 7 games. So, a lot of underclassmen games and, just people that may not ever have the opportunity to play in an event like that. But to, have the opportunity to do that in front of, Las Vegas and their fans and their parents. I think, that's excellent. So I'm a big fan. I'm glad Ballislife went good. Glad Balldawgs went good. It's exciting times for these kids. As you said, most of them are committed. There was also a huge commitment this weekend with our guy, Bronny James.
Yeah.
Finally coming out and saying he's committed to USC Trojans. And, we've talked a lot about him on the show. So what are your thoughts about his college selection, Ronnie?
I think it was kind of when we seen some of the guys that jumped in the portal, when I seen Trey White, who's a pretty good freshman, and Trey's going to Louisville now. Mm-hmm. I kind of said, okay, these guards are not going to be there. It kind of seemed he was going that way. The longer it waited, Ohio State didn't seem like the choice because like you said, fit, but also his family is going to go, they're pretty well rooted in Los Angeles. His younger brother, Bryce, is now at Campbell Hall. So, and his sister's at Campbell Hall. So if you're going to do that and your two, siblings are moving school, that kind of shows that you're committed as a family to staying local, right? I mean,
I didn't even know. So wait, so Bryce, no more Sierra Canyon for Bryce?
No more Sierra Canyon, correct.
I didn't know that.
Hall, which is a near school. It has a new coach, David Grace, who was previously a UCLA assistant. So they have a new coach. But yeah, that kind of showed me that they made a commitment to stay in town. So that Bronny was probably going to stay in town or maybe go to the G League in Las Vegas. But that started making sense. And then you're thinking Oregon and said, well, probably not. Probably stay local, especially again with this family situation. And it is the opportunity. Again, they have Boogie Ellis coming back. They have a good backcourt, but he's going to get some chance, some opportunity. And it's probably the best fit in terms of college for him. Just looking at it, the level he's going to play. Again, people have a wide range of where he may excel. And he's, again, we talk about kids that are just big time stars, rock stars in high school, like whether it's Jason Kidd in California, LeBron nationally, and obviously from Ohio. We talked about some of the best high school players in our last pod when we mentioned that Cameron Boozer is the national player there. We kind of went through that, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. But my point is, he may be popular than all of them. So Chelsea, is he ever going to get a fair shake? Like, you're going to have a wide range of opinions on him. I don't know if he might be a little bit better than his detractors mentioned, but he might not be as good as some of the people fawning over him. So I wanted to get your opinion about that.
I mean, I like the college choice. I said before that I thought that, even though they have him, ranked, a potential lottery pick, I guess, when they did the mock drafts,
Yeah.
I just look at him as a very solid, capable mid-major type player. Like
Sure.
when people were trying to say, blue bloods, they want Kentucky and Duke to offer. Like I didn't see that from him.
Sure.
And that's okay though. Basketball is very much, you talk about excelling, it's very much about fit and opportunity.
Sure.
I think USC, was a good choice for him. Like you said, he's going to be surrounded by his family. And
Yeah.
and with the transfers leaving, I think there is an opportunity for him to come in and do well. I
Sure.
don't think that he's going to be some, incredible college talent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his goal is to get to the NBA, and you don't have to be. Sometimes kids get drafted off potential. Sometimes kids get drafted because
Correct.
they're a specialist. Sometimes this kid is 3-and-D, and that's what the Oklahoma City Thunder is looking for. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so.
Sure.
So I think that he's going to get an opportunity. I don't think that he's going to be some dominant college player, but I think that he is going to ultimately find his way to the NBA because that's in the cards for him.
Cards for him. Yep.
Yeah, LeBron is his dad. He has all the resources. And I don't want to say that he's getting, drafted just because of nepotism, because I do think he's a very solid player. But
Sure.
I think that he's one of these players that's going to develop. He's going to find his way through college. And if he's fortunate enough to touch the league, he's going to have to navigate through that as well and find a role where he's able to stick. And we see that happen all the time. Like people think that a lot of people go to the NBA and they're not stars. A lot of people have to navigate the highs and lows of finding their role and their niche. And that's what keeps them on a roster. I mean, there's a million examples. We see Patrick Beverley, who had to go get it overseas. We see
Jimmy Butler. Yeah.
Like everybody, there's so many routes to the NBA.
Sure.
So I know that's his goal. I feel like he's gonna get there or touch it in some capacity. I think he personally is gonna need 2 years of college. I don't think he's one and done type of player. But I think time will tell. And as I say all the time on this podcast, like I am rooting for these kids. And if they have these desires and dreams, hopefully they put their head down, put in the work, and have an opportunity to reach those dreams.
No doubt. And he, like, again, you're coming from a standpoint of like, you're positive for young man. He's still a young man. Like you said, it's easy to criticize him. He's only 18 years old or whatnot. These guys get a lot of publicity. And again, do I think he's the 12th pick in this upcoming draft? No, I don't. Do I think he's going to play in the NBA? Yeah, I do. I do think, like you mentioned, he is going to play in the NBA. Again, on our all-state team for Cal High Sports, he was second team all-state. He was pretty close to first team, first 10, but he had a good closing. He had some good games down the stretch. The team made it to the regional finals, SoCal D1 regional finals. Not like they were not good. Was he as good as Marcus Adams? Was Jared McKay? No. Was Caleb Foster? No, he's not to that level. But he was, like you said, a pretty good player. I just don't know if he's ever going to get a fair shake. Because, again, look at his dad. There's some people that don't, he's not a true Laker. There's some Laker fans that still really don't like LeBron. And if they win this whole thing this year, maybe they might like him. They definitely don't think like, oh yeah, he came in the bubble. They did pretty good. Like you can hear like people's disdain for him. Because why? Probably, honestly, in many respects, probably because of Kobe's death, really. Mm-hmm. Because if Kobe were to say, if Kobe was alive, just come out and say, LeBron is a great guy. He's a Laker he's one of our people's attitude would change, but he's not there to do it. And there's nobody else to do it. Kareem's not going to do it. You know what I mean?
I agree. But Kobe, before he passed, was showing LeBron love. Like, he was at the games, they're dapping up and hugging, and there's a lot of mutual respect. But you're right. Like it speaks to the point that you can never be enough for somebody.
Correct.
Like there's always going to be a hater. And the one reason that I really like Bronny James is because he's handled all of that so well.
Yeah.
Like who knows what it's like to be LeBron James' kid? Who knows what it's like to be a LeBron James kid and try to be a basketball player?
Yeah.
Like it's just difficult. And I see this kid as such a level-headed, like handles all the good, the bad, with such poise and grace. And that's why, even though he may not get a fair shake, I think he's going to succeed just because of his personality and because how he's handled already to this point as an 18-year-old. He's only going to get better with maturity and experience. Yeah, so he's going to be just fine. I really believe that.
Yeah, when the fawning stops, when the cameras are not always around them. And again, we can't say that Ball is Life is part of that phenomenon or part of that issue of cameras in people's faces. So we can't sit here and knock them like completely. Like, but when somebody pulls them aside and be like, yo, this is why you need to what you need to get better at. Forget all the mock drafts, forget all this is what you're not good at. I can tell him right now, okay, you got to be able to break down guys in the half court better. You know what I mean? The game is a little at the McDonald's level was a little fast for him. Mm-hmm. He was on the court at the end. He threw a couple bad passes a little too late in a close game. Like, so he's the speed of the game is going to have the decision making because everybody's like, oh, look at his athleticism. Yeah, well, on a straight line and on a fast break, yeah, he looks like a smaller version of his daddy. Yeah, we know that. Like, that's not going to be the case, you know, like forever. So, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see because, like you said, it is a crapshoot. So as we transition from the end of the season, the 23 cycle getting done, we're going to start preparing for the NBA draft. We'll likely have a show again as the W kicks off. We'll Ani, me, and you will come on and we'll break these guys down. We do need to break them down because now as we transition to the NBA, we'll bring Ani on. I think Ani's going to join us now. And so as we talk about the NBA, we'll get his quick thoughts on the Ballislife All-American Game. But like I said, Ani will put up a story a little later on ballislife.com this week that you kind of get his recap of the game. But we'll hit it real quick. But we're going to transition to the NBA, and then as we transition to that, we'll talk about the All-NBA rookie team. And we mentioned some of those guys on our show last year, which was great. We appreciate everybody that was tuning in all across the world, really. Right before the NBA draft started, and we went through like the 10th pick or whatnot. And you know, it's not like Chelsea, the all rookie team is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like we don't think that they won't get drafted that way, but like it's a continuous development, continue to get this right. Nobody's perfect, you know, nobody gets it slam dunk right all the time. And NBA GMs, maybe we'll talk about with a little bit with Ani too when he joins us, like that, you know, it's a lot of intel, a lot of no matter how much they look at the guys, evaluate them on game, they're still not going to get it right all the time. Correct. They just don't. And that's why it's a draft. It's not set in stone, especially with where they're coming from. Basically, 1 year of college. And now if guys are doing 2 or 3 years of college, they're probably transferred once, you know? Yeah. And true. Most high-level high school players transfer. Many of them transfer once, you know? So let's bring in Ani now, and he'll join us. Yeah. Ani, what's going on?
What up?
How's it going? Everything
good?
Oh,
man. No red-eye flights. That's no joke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Going back from – Ani joins us now from Dallas, and he was obviously in Vegas for the 2 National All-Star games, and he worked the event at the Ballislife All-American. As I mentioned, he was doing some analyst work and some interviews, which you can see on the replay of the stream. Just Kylan, I kind of went over the statistical things and the score and the 157, 154 overtime. Just give us your 2 or 3 like highlight from the Ballislife All-American Game.
Oh man, just Marcus Adams, right? Going to Kansas, that's just one of them. You know, breaking the record in the scoring, and then he had like 18 rebounds or so. Like just shattering both records. The 3-point, like just him shattering records. That was crazy. I think someone like Andrew Meadows, for me, that was who's going to Boise State. I thought that was another just interesting, you know, player just coming up, someone that I think can potentially impact right away for a Boise State team. And then obviously the big one, Coen Carr, right? I think Coen, his stock really rose this weekend. Just, you know, going to Michigan State, just his athleticism, you know, just very powerful. I mean, I haven't really seen him play like that. So this past weekend was like a sight to see, like, oh man, this kid got a chance to be really, really good.
No doubt. I mentioned that. I mentioned that there's some guys that are in the grassroots space that can easily break down how good an event is, whether it's logistics, play, lack of play, lethargic play, and everybody was like, you know, they played really hard for an all-star game.
They did.
They played hard, and Coen Carr has to get the credit for that. Like, at the start of the game, he's playing really hard. And I think the other 20 guys or so are like, hey, wait a minute. If this dude's going to do this, I'm going to have to, you know, we can't just, it's not just for the show. We're going to have to play a bit. And I think they did.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought guys did play hard. I thought guys did get after it. It didn't feel too NBA All-Star-ish, right? Like what we saw. I mean, yeah, guys had open layups and stuff.
Sure,
but
sure.
I thought guys competed. I didn't feel like anybody really wanted to lose that game. So that's that, and they played like it. So that's what I do appreciate as well.
Yeah, that was a good show. And again, that happened. Same thing in the McDonald's game. We got a lot of reviews that Iverson practices were very hard. So then you go to this game, Ballislife, and overall it was good. The practice was pretty spirited. The players enjoyed the 3-point competition in practice. You know, they all wanted, like, yeah, I want to shoot. They like I want to get to the final. I want to shoot on Saturday. You know, some of the guys were like, man, I didn't get to shoot. I'm like, hey, man, I called your name. You goofing around. We're serious. You know, like the girls were on it. Like 15 girls or something. You know, I'm calling out their names. You know, Booker next. You know, Summers next. Boom, they're like ready to shoot. So that was good to see a little bit of competitive nature. And,
yeah, the 3-point, but also like the scrimmages were really intense. Like you know, they didn't want to lose those games, man. Like those girls and those boys went after it. You know, there was a lot of excitement there. I enjoyed the weekend.
Yeah, great. Likewise as well. Again, we kind of dropped in the Balldawgs game. I'd mentioned Sebastian Mack was the MVP of that. So kudos to those 4 guys that played in both games. Long weekend, I guess. And as I talked to the guys on it, you interview them, they are kind of ready for college. Like, honestly, they're ready to graduate, go to prom, or if they haven't, they go to college. So, like, it's enough about the high school realm. We kind of talked about Pangos coming up and Dallas EYBL. You'll get the chance to watch the EYBL another session. I may go down there, but if not, I know you'll be covering it, so that will be covered. You know, we'll have our bases covered. We're gonna have to put out our final top 100 on Hoop Scoop. Chelsea kind of mentioned about Bronny and you know, obviously we're not gonna have as high as some other people have them. We're just not. I mean, but like. The final order is not really kind of coming to being set, but the guys are ready to go to college, and we'll see where they land. Where a lot of those guys are in next year's NBA draft. We had Anthony Black as one of the judges, and he should be in that draft next. You know, this upcoming 223 one, and there's still a lot to be decided. As in this next month, I know teams are doing a lot of their intel on it. You know, it's never ending cycle. They could never have enough information because they're going to miss. You know, some teams are going to miss. And we're going to talk about that right now here in a few minutes about the all NBA rookie team. We'll let Chelsea break that down and who they are. But it ain't the first top 5 guys that got drafted. And we talked about some of that. I think you mentioned that Walker Kessler might have been a good pick of where he went at 22. We had a few guys that we thought maybe – went too high or too low. And again, we're going to do that again in this upcoming show that we'll have in about a month and a half. But we're going to do our homework and get to that. But just give me your highline about this 223 class real quick and how that relates to the NBA draft, because they're not there yet, you know, and nobody's saying, wow, this is just like a kick butt group. They got some work to do. And maybe that's why they did play hard in the All-Star games. They want to show people, hey, we're here, and we, you know, look at us. We are NBA, going to be NBA players.
Right. No, that 23 class, it still hasn't. It's an interesting class because no one's really just broke out and been the guy. Right. There's no. You don't see like that Keontae George, Anthony Black. You know, just like even Ben Simmons type guy in this class. But you got some good players. This freshman year, like this 23-24 season in college, come interesting. See which freshmen really step up. 24 class right now on paper doesn't look great, but I think there's going to be some guys that are like top 40, top 50, top 60 guys that eventually you're going to see our lottery picks, right? Our first round draft picks. And I think we're going to get back to more of those mid to late first round guys being some of these older guys, right, from the draft, and especially if these freshmen don't really pan out as well as people are saying. So I think the 23 class is still like, you could say Ron Hall and Isaiah Collier, you know, Just Edwards kind of been in the mix. There's still some guys in there, but there's not guys you're like, oh, he's going to be an NBA All-Star. You got guys that are going to be good pros, I believe, but I think you may see the best player that's not even really listed in your top 20 or 30, maybe be a guy that's not even in McDonald's All-American game, right? It's one of those type of years. So be interesting to see.
Yeah, like if Coen Carr stays a couple years, develops a jumper, continues to develop, again, he could be a contributing NBA player. Nobody thought that, a year ago. Again, right. So we'll see what happens. So Chelsea, give us the rundown of the all first team all rookie team, and then we'll kind of talk about where they got drafted, and then we'll get into the NBA playoffs, close with the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, of course. Well, 2023 NBA all rookie team consisted of 5 players. The number 1 was pretty much unanimous, and Paolo Banchero from the Orlando Magic. As expected, I don't think anybody didn't have him being on this team and also being rookie of the year, which he was. So kudos to him. We have Jalen Williams from the Thunder, who I thought was very impressive this season. He played very well. He was second. He got the second most votes. Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz. This is one guy that Ani thought could have been picked a little higher than he was, but he performed for Utah. Utah was a little bit of a sleeper. Like, they overachieved after they made those trades. Nobody thought that Utah would be good, but Walker Kessler stepped in and he was definitely a contributor. Keegan Murray from the Sacramento Kings, sharpshooter, 3-point shooter. I think as expected with the way that he played, and I think he broke the record for threes. I don't know for
rookie,
maybe for sack but he broke some record in 3-pointers made. Maybe he led, this season in 3-pointers made. Great player as well. And then finally from the Indiana Pacers, Benedict Mathurin, the guy that said that Bron had to, show him he's better than him. Hey, you know what? He backed it up because look, he found himself on the all rookie team, and he didn't outplay Bron, but he
backed it up.
I mean, he made all rookie team. He didn't back it up in terms of his play versus Bron, but I'm saying he got an accolade. What else? What
else did he do besides make all rookie team?
I mean, that's true. Yeah. What he's at least he made it.
Did he show he's better than LeBron?
No.
Okay, did he back it up?
But I'm saying he backed up some of his trash talk with his play.
I got you.
Yeah. Okay, Ani, you know what I mean. Of course, Bron's my guy, and he did nothing to LeBron James, but kudos to him.
I had to check the polls.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we got 1, 5, 12, 13, 22, right? Mathurin 5.
Mathurin 5, Keegan Murray 12, Walker Kessler 22. So all first round picks. Yeah. Kessler being the 22 pick,
and Jalen Williams. So I think Jalen was 12 and Murray was 13.
Oh, 13.
So, yeah, Jalen Williams was a really good pick for Oklahoma at 12. I don't recall us saying that was like we thought he had a chance, but I don't think any of us had super strong feelings about him that like, oh God, that he gonna be all rookie team or anything like that. But then we thought it was a good pick. I mentioned Benedict Mathurin should be picked before Shaedon Sharpe. I was like, you better pick him before Shaedon Sharpe. So I remember that. Obviously, Paolo Banchero, we were like, wow, he went 1, but like it made sense. So Orlando did their homework there. Whatever they decided was the deciding factor between him going 1 or 2. Like they seemed to get that right because within the first 10 games, it was looking like, okay, he's going to be a good pro and be good for quite a while.
Yeah,
strong and everything. So. Audience, this year went by and we talk about the draft. We look at it. We talk to people. We talk to coaches. We talk to AU coaches, agents, guys who work in NBA offices. Like, what are they? It's a never-ending cycle of information stuff. But where did they get things right, or where did they get things wrong? Generally speaking, with this group, and then we'll talk a little bit about future groups, but. What did they get right and what did they get wrong here?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a little too early to tell, but obviously like that and I always say that because look at Brandon Ingram and Ben Simmons, right? And now we would say Brandon Ingram, but I think it was just what they got right, especially that Paolo being number 1. I know we kind of heard that like later on that day, but just I think Orlando was looking for someone that could really help them in winning right away. Even though Orlando did not make the playoffs, they still did good. Paolo was still really good. He kind of made a surge to get them potentially in that play-in tournament. some guys, like you said, I mean, we still got to see like what Shadon Sharp's about, right? Like, he had moments in Portland, but you see some guys that drafted ahead of him that was like, maybe we could have helped Portland right away. You see some teams that skipped on like Jalen Williams, Benedict Mathurin, Walker Kessler. That when you talk about like Indiana's gonna be a playoff team in the near future, in my opinion. Utah is going to be a playoff team, and day and age done a good job. But guys like Walker Kessler just speed up the process. Jalen Williams, obviously, like we saw Oklahoma in the playing game. Guys like that, some of these teams that were drafted ahead, and pick guys that we still kind of see what their role or impact is in the NBA.
Yeah.
Which I think Shaden has a high ceiling, but I'm not just picking on him. But like there are teams that's still going to be, in that mediocrity trail, non-playoff, tanking every year because they didn't draft some of these guys. So, it's important when you draft like in the top 5, top 6, you got to get it right. You want to get it right a lot more than wrong because, that keeps you in that field of just being bad or mediocre.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chelsea, you have any thoughts on that? Like in terms of, just we saw where the rookies landed, and I'll mention the second team real quick. Jalen Duran, I thought he went too low. We talked about that, Donnie, that how good of a high school player he was and how physically strong he was. Second team, Jaden Ivey, Jeremy Sosan from Baylor, Jabari Smith. Again, he was potentially labeled as a number 1 type player. Coming out of Auburn, the Rockets, and Tari Eason, who all 3 of us liked. I think all 3 of us saw him at the summer league. And we're like, he's going to make an impact, and he made second team. So again, opportunity. Again, he got a lot of playing time. Some other rookies don't. So talk about that, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at these teams, and you just mentioned how it's not like the 1st through 5th pick on the first team, and they're kind of all over the place. Ani talked from kind of a general management drafting standpoint and what they're looking for, but I just look at it from a player standpoint, and I see it just about being fit and opportunity. Sure. Really depending on where you go as a player can impact if you're going to be on this team because are you getting the chance to play? I think about James Wiseman, who was a high pick, 2 or 3 seasons ago, and drafted by the Golden State Warriors and never played, and eventually got traded to the Detroit Pistons. And now he's getting his game off. He's looking like a formidable big man. And if you don't have the opportunity in the minutes, then you're just not going to have a chance to be on these teams.
Correct. Go ahead.
And sometimes you do get the opportunity. Like I think Jabari Smith, second team, everybody had him as arguably trying to say maybe he could possibly go number 1 over Paolo in terms of the draft. But I think, he had plenty of opportunity. He's on a Houston team that, is not good, playing a lot of minutes, and he still found himself on the second team. So it's just about, fit, opportunity, who's coming in and being able to contribute. And just by the looks of things, I think they got the first team right. I think Jaden Ivey was the guy that could have been in there. I don't really know who replaced.
Yeah.
But I think that I would have been okay with him being in there. Other than that, I think that, like I said, I think they got it right and they hit the nail on the head with the guys that did make it. All of them were impact players and, true contributors on even if the team didn't make the playoffs, they were making a push. And it was positive impact.
Helping their teams. And again, fortunes change fast. So again, you want to hit the draft, as I said, especially when you're real high or there's a top 3 or 4 guys that everybody thinks are, consensus best. Sometimes it's only 2 guys. This year we're kind of saying first it was always 2 guys, Scoot Henderson and Victor. Now we're saying there's 3 guys. Is the Alabama kid, better than Scoot Henderson? That type of thing. So the interesting pick will be 4th, right? Who gets the number 1 pick, and then who drafts good at 4? Because everybody's expects some kind of quote unquote fall off in talent or whatnot. So we're gonna talk about that. Talk about who's in, who's out as time goes on, and But in terms of the NBA, the teams with the experience, the coaching, and the few difference makers are really still playing. You want to give a shout out to the guys who came, younger guys who came to the Ballislife game. Again, they're all over the place. We talk about Bennett and Mather, and then his college teammate Jalen Terry goes 18. Jalen doesn't play that much. He needs more seasoning, a little more strength, and he's out in LA working. And then Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets was there. We talked about the Rockets need to improve. KJ Martin was there. Ty Washington, another Rocket, was there. Again, as a young core, but where do they go? They need a veteran. Ani, real quick, obviously a rock star, a guy who people like. People love Jalen Green. He's of that group I mentioned. He's by far the most popular guy, and he was a high draft choice, and he went higher than Evan Mobley. Like, is the verdict out on still out on him? Does he just need more veterans and better players around him, or is it what you see, what you get? He's going to score. He's going to make athletic plays, or do you think he's going to take a step up at some point in the next couple of years?
Oh, if I had to project, I really don't know. I mean, Houston just hasn't done a good job just building the team together. I think the team was kind of him and KPJ backcourt probably wasn't the most ideal one. Just you see, got a lot of guys just jacking the ball up. I think he can, get to a certain point. I mean, the star talent is there and the upside. Does he get it again? Just a big offseason for Houston. Buy in all those things. He's gonna have to be more of a playmaker guy that just really kind of just dishes it out more, or you have a really good true PG traditional or true PG with him that kind of make it work. I think the next few years is going to be dependent upon how Houston structures the roster. Sure. And if they structure where, if it's more like, hey, Jalen wants to be more of a like this hybrid type guard and blah, 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 and he works at it, I can see that under the right cast, right? Good veterans and stuff like that. If it's more, hey, we just want you to be a scorer and we're going to have a stronger, PG that can really just manage everything and control them, then I think it can work. But I think for him to make his true star potential is going to be more on this hybrid guard look. But I don't. It's hard for me to project because I got to see how Houston's going to structure the roster.
Correct. Very young team, as you mentioned, younger than San Diego State and some college teams. Really, and that's just that's not going to win right now.
No,
the way the NBA is structured. So, speaking of the NBA, as we mentioned that, these series, and we're getting down to the better teams, and we kind of mentioned things change fast. So Chelsea mentioned Wiseman. I'm watching this game with you, Ani. I'm like, if Wiseman was coming off the bench and just maybe giving AD a little trouble, maybe altering his shot here and there. Maybe he's not a better player than AD, but he's surely going to do a lot more than the roster they got now. You know what I mean? Slow him down. They look like all world against Sacramento, but they don't look all world right now. So let's start with that series. Then we got to talk about what Miami's doing right. We've talked about Miami before. And then the other two series are 2-2. So go ahead, Chelsea. You start with whatever series you want. And I know what series we're going to close with. And we'll talk about whatever you guys want.
Okay, well, we're going to start with my series. And big win last night, Ani, for my Lakers.
Yeah.
We are up 3-1 against Golden State. We're taking it back to the Chase Center, Game 5 on Wednesday, which I will be present for to watch my boy LeBron close this thing out. But
5?
Yeah. I'm feeling 5 now. My prediction was 6, but I'm feeling 5 now. So I'll be at the Bay at the Chase Center for the game. But this was the most, I think, anticipated series. I mean, the history between the Warriors and the Lakers. I mean, the Warriors, I guess LeBron and the Warriors, but, let's say that. Everybody was anticipating it. And I think the Lakers have just kind of exerted their dominance. They had a really good carryover from, the trade deadline and how they finished their NBA regular season. And we're just seeing the disparity, I guess, in the post for Golden State. You just mentioned Wiseman, Anthony Davis, with the exception of, I think, Game 2 has been having a field day out there, and he's really the key to the Lakers' success. When AD is being him, he's been at the forefront of a lot of these talk shows lately. Undisputed, First Take, just for his lack of performance every other playoff game. But I think when Anthony Davis is locked in, the Lakers kind of go as he goes. We know what we're going to get from LeBron. LeBron is still 38 and, aging. So he can't carry like he's used to. So the Lakers really destiny kind of depends on Anthony Davis. And when he exerts his dominance, the Lakers are really good. On the other hand, Steph is doing his thing for Golden State, but it just seems that every night they're missing something, whether it's post play, whether it's, Jordan Poole, who they paid a whole bunch of money to, who's, basically unplayable right now in certain moments. Clay's been inconsistent and kind of up and down. Steph's been doing his thing, but it's not looking good for Golden State at the moment, being down 3-1, which they say 95% of the time goes to the team that's up 3 wins. So, I'm looking forward to see what happens. Ani, you picked Golden State in our last pod. I mean, talk to me. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Are you a little bit nervous? What's going on?
No, I mean, I picked Golden State. A little nervous for the Warriors. I mean, just, they're really struggling when you look at the size differential, right? And, before I even get on Golden State, I mean, Anthony Davis in this playoffs has really just been fantastic. Already has, I want to say, like 11 or 14 blocks right now in 4 games. He had 26 with Memphis. No one's really was talking about his defense in that last playoff series. He's really disrupted Golden State's offensive flow. You seeing Steph and those guys second guess themselves when they get to the rim, right? Like he uses his arms like to deflect passes, just blocking shots. I mean, the way LA can play defense the way they can by basically making Golden State and those guys be drivers because of Anthony Davis, right? He just so feared, and that's what like Ronnie talked about with Sacramento. That's why they look like superstars versus Sac. Like no one's worried about Sabonis, right? Yeah, but when you got Anthony Davis in there, he just impacts he impacts them so much defensively. But also want to say, like, yeah, I think James Wiseman would have helped, right? Like, they would have kind of been patient, developed him, even if it's 10 minutes, right? Or it could have given some of these older guys a breather and then come back and play the pace that they want to play because, LA doesn't want to play that fast. Sure. It would help Golden State. But yeah, Golden State just, Kevon Looney's doing the best he can. I thought JaMychal Green, I wish we would have seen him a little bit more. I thought he had a really good game too. No, game 3 was just all right, but like I wish we could see him a little bit more. No one was good for Golden State game 3, so it is what it is. But yeah, I know they trying to switch their lineups, go small. It hurts when you go that small, like with Gary Payton and Draymond at the 5, because you have Anthony Davis. You have to guard on the offense. So yeah. I mean, it's going to be LA. I think it's LA in 6. I did have Golden State in 6. I don't see that. I think the problem Golden State has is something they really can't fix, which is they don't have it in the roster.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You mentioned the personnel, and again, I mentioned the Poole Draymond incident. To me, still plays a role, whether people think or not. But also the Wiseman trade. Again, you got to make the right personnel move. So you're more invested in Poole. Like you said, Chelsea on the last pod, like he had people are like, man, this guy could be like an all NBA type player. He's so good in these playoffs, meaning last year. And now it's just like, boom, the bottom dropped out of it. And he's not even really playing that much no more or playing for this series. And again, if they lose it, the season will be over, obviously. But he kind of ended on a whimper instead of like on a high note. And maybe that trade is gonna come back to bite them in the butt, or like who they decided to invest in. Because my bigger issue with that is not so much, their play is they're aging. They can't do it every night. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they look like world beaters. I think that's been the big problem is whether they're not getting the bench play. They like Clay and Steph are not playing that level every night, right? That level every third night or every third game, right? So that has been a problem in this series. Now the Lakers just made the right moves, Maybe they've got unfortunate luck with Lonnie Walker going nuts in this last game. But, the moves they made and the younger guys, the more length with Vanderbilt and just LeBron playing a little bit smarter, make more physical, making guys guard him in the post and in driving in the post. If LeBron wouldn't settle for threes, he's just taxing on a defense, especially an aging defense. Like, nobody on Golden State wants to be with him in the key. Knoxville, he dislodges those guys, get them out of the way. They either have to foul him or he's going to make a little short shot, which is how we wanted them to play for a while, not settle for three. So kudos to them. They're doing a good job, and they're going to have to do it again. Looks like regardless of what team advances in Phoenix, Denver. I would think it may be probably Denver, but if Phoenix pulls through, like, they're going to have to do it again. Play this way again. Smart inside, work with Davis, LeBron not selling for these ones. The Lakers are still shooting too many threes. It's just a Golden State not hitting any. So if Golden State's not hitting any, they have no, like you said, Ani, they have no answer. They just look fast. They're not going to have it every night. So basically what they're going to have to do, play excellent for 3 straight games. That's probably not going to happen the way it's now. So for my bigger issue is like, their ability to do it every night. And like you said, just having a little more, they're not getting anything from Poole. So they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Speaking of that, that series, the other series is, Ani, we kind of watched that game too when we were getting ready to watch the Balldawgs game on Sunday, and we're just thinking that in that series that Phoenix, I'm like, they look good without CP3. The ball's moving. They're a little bit younger, faster. They adjusted and they got 2 games, so now we have a good series.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think. Man, that series, Phoenix made shots, especially at home. They're making shots that they weren't making. I mean, obviously Devin Booker, now he's arguably the best player in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler still won. The way he's playing has been great. When him and KD are going, it's just really hard to beat. You wish you got more out of Aiden. Landry Shaman obviously came big, but they can space the floor. They can play a little faster. There's not as much dribbling. I think defensively they can do some more. Right, like really good ball movement. They can really put the point of focus on like Devin Booker and KD bringing the ball up, initiating the offense all the time, and they just make shots. I want to see if they can do that in Denver. That would be very interesting to see them doing it in Denver. But kudos to them. I thought it would just be a 1-1 when they're at home, and be like they'll go Denver 3-1, but to win both of them has been fantastic. I don't know. CP3 needs to come off the bench going forward. He just needs to be the towel guy, the high five guy.
Stop it.
You don't like that.
Stop.
Come on, like, and to do that and help lead, and maybe you can get to the finals again.
Go ahead, Chelsea. What do you think there?
Ani takes things too far. Like, he literally takes it too far. Listen, I'm a huge CP3 fan. But I do agree that him not playing in these last 2 games has changed the pace, for the Phoenix Suns. And I also think too, because Chris Paul is so ball dominant, he's used to facilitating and setting the table or playing with guys that he needs to do that for. Like, I think he needs to step back and realize, like, KD and Booker don't need him to set the table. It's just give me the damn ball, and I'm Devin Booker. I'm shooting with 2 hands in my face, and I'm making it,
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. I think Cameron Payne, can't hold a candle to Chris Paul, but he's playing faster. He's pushing the ball up. KD, Devin Booker are getting the ball quickly on the move, and KD's already 7 feet tall, can shoot over anybody. But if he has a little bit of downhill, you really aren't going to be able to stop it. So I do admit that Cameron Payne has increased the tempo for them. But I see Chris Paul, especially because he continues to get hurt in the postseason. His body's not handling maybe the intensity or maybe the fast-paced play, which is why he tries to slow the game down to a level where he's able to, kind of make an impact. But I agree with Ani in a sense that I think he doesn't need to come off the bench, but his limits need to definitely be limited. And I think in a close game, maybe on the road, like when they're playing in Denver, then he can come in and be more of a closer and manage the game in terms of it's a 1 or 2 possession game and there's 2 minutes left on the clock. I think that would be ideal for him. But as far as him playing big minutes in a game where they want to get up and down and go fast, I definitely think that is not going to lead to the success for Phoenix at this point.
That makes sense. Yeah, and it's basically a 2 out of 3 now. I do want to say about that, like regardless of who the personnel, regardless of the strategy, just like high level offense in that game for holy, like between Joker and the Joker, like the offense was just incredible. Like you can talk about Ayton, Ayton's not the number one guy pick type of player. He's just getting cooked, but still, like, give some credit to the offensive players. They're just playing really well and just hitting difficult shots. The Lakers, Golden State are not hitting those type of shots. There's a different type of series, more of a grinded out. Who can outlast the other team? Who's playing smarter? And that seems to be the Lakers right now. But in that other series, just like, okay, look at this shot. Like, damn, just really. So I think the Lakers, especially if it's Denver, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Big time.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, because again, you got to have to win 1 or 2 games in Denver, and that won't be easy. So let's switch to the East. Miami's looking, just Spoelstra and his group in playoff Jimmy. Those guys are looking good. What are the Knicks not doing? I guess Chelsea. What is it just Miami? What is Miami's doing?
Well, the Knicks can't shoot. That's the main problem. And honestly, Miami has the best player in the series and arguably the best player in the playoffs. Like Jimmy Butler has been exceptional. They have no answer for him. We talk about the Heat culture all the time, where it's really next man up. They haven't missed a beat with Tyler Hero gone. Duncan Robinson's been inserted back into the lineup. But I just think the toughness and the leadership of Jimmy Butler is what has been carrying Miami. Everybody's on a roll and they're stepping up. And as much as I love Jalen Brunson as a player, and he's shined in his own right, he's been very solid. We thought that this was going to be just like a perfect matchup, but the Heat have dominated them. Wow. And, credit to Jimmy Butler and those guys, but they look like the far better team in the series, and the Knicks' inability to shoot consistently is their Achilles heel. And not that Miami's the best shooting team, but they have some sharp shooters in Strus and people that can, in Duncan Robinson, that can come in and fill it up. And they're just the better team, and they're getting out of their next game, and we'll see the 8th seed Miami Heat advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Wow.
And that it's just a lot of credit to Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. I mean, I cannot harp on that enough, because Jimmy is doing it without a co-star, really. I mean, I guess you can say Bam is a co-star, but I say no. He doesn't have a Jamal Murray. He doesn't have a, Anthony Davis or LeBron James, however you want to flip it. He doesn't have a Klay Thompson. Like, he's literally doing this by saying, guys, follow me. I'm Jimmy Butler. I'm a dog. I bring toughness. I bring leadership, and we're just going to ride this thing out. And I'm very impressed with Miami.
Yeah, no, the big thing here is depth. Obviously New York's not making shots to Miami, but it's depth. I mean, Kevin Love's had a pretty good playoffs, right? Like Kyle Lowry's, I think he's gone to the fountain of youth a little bit. Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson has good games. Max Strus, like there's guys, the guys like Bam and Jimmy are doing their part, and Jimmy's even exceeding what people thought he could be since. Compared to how he's been playing during the season. Sure. When you look at New York, it's like, Randall, he's, you can tell injuries still kind of bother him a little bit, but he's doing fine. Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett had a pretty good game 3, but he's a little inconsistent. You're not getting a whole lot like Hart just been okay. Quentin Grimes has been okay. Mitchell Robinson's been okay, but, I named about 6-7 guys in Miami, and I think they had like 6 or 7 guys in double figures last game, where in New York, you only had 3. You can't win that many games. I think Miami just really showing off their depth, the way they can defend and really just make it hard for the opposing team to score. And, like you said, Chelsea, I think the best player in this series is Jimmy Butler, right? But I think what's kind of underrated is just how much depth and like some of these guys are just playing. Like, who thought Kevin Love was going to be as good as he's been, right? Be a contributor for the playoffs like this. Who thought Kyle Lowry would, really kind of resurge back to, what we thought we would be seeing from him. That's the big difference in this series.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then they're in control, and for the final series is 2-2, and that is just two heavyweights, kind of, Boston and Philly, two old playoff rivals, teams that have been around, and it's still up in the air, like kind of like Phoenix, Denver. Somebody will step up hard and had a great game, and then obviously Boston seems to be the favorite. They would probably be the favorite if they advanced to play Miami. But what's your guys' thoughts there, Chelsea?
This has been a very interesting, kind of back and forth series. We've seen James Harden kind of turn back the clock, I guess. I mean, I don't really think he turned back the clock. I think he's very much still James, but he knows how to adapt to, the situation at hand. Right now, he plays with Joel Embiid, who's league MVP, dominant post player. So he's getting him the ball. So I'm obviously going to have less points if I'm shooting. But when we see in Joel Embiid's absence, then James steps up and he's Houston Rockets James, and he's filling it up and he's scoring big. And he did that last time when Joel came back as well. So they have a good 1-2 punch. I still see Boston as the favorite. I think they just have the better team. I think Boston struggles with just checking out sometimes. I mean, we saw that when they played the Atlanta Hawks, like games that they should win, they're just kind of like not as engaged as they should be, and they end up losing or dropping the ball in a game or two. But I see them winning today in game 5. I see them closing out the series. And, the Sixers, I feel like it's just a weird time for them. You have Doc Rivers as a coach. Doc Rivers has had many rosters with a lot of talent, and he just can't get over the hump. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but I just don't see it happening this series either. As incredible as Joel and James are, I think the most complete team is still Boston. They have, 1-2 punch and Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. And just collectively, I think they have the depth and the roster to see it through in the Eastern Conference semis off to the finals. And then I have them, hopefully meeting my Lakers in the NBA.
Wow. So Boston and the Lakers playing the final. I'll probably go to a game that'll interest me. That's the only two teams I really care about in all this. From a fan perspective, I care about all. As a fan, I only want to see Boston Lakers. It's just 17, 18 titles, all the history from the history standpoint. But obviously, you want to see all the players, do their best. So, like a guy like Lonnie Walker, again, a top 20 guy in that 217 class with guys like Gary Trent Jr., Jaren Jackson, Kevin Knox. And wow, now a lot of people know about Lonnie Walker, Miami guy. I'm glad he got his, 13 points in the fourth, or do you have 18?
15. All in the fourth.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That is not like a lucky shot here. That's like a big difference maker.
Right.
Like that. The Lakers need that, though, because, again, LeBron's going to have his days where he's going to maybe not have it, like Chelsea says, all in the tank. So he's going to shoot threes and he's not shooting a great percentage. That doesn't look like it's going to change. But they have enough. He's smart enough to, draw some fouls, dish it. And that's what I kind of like to see him play. And he seemed to be doing that. The trades they made at the deadline were like everything. Like for them, they got younger. Everybody's like, they're old. No, they're not that old. They're young. Just one guy's old. The rest of them are young. They're fine in that regard. I'm with you more, Ani. Like you, Chelsea, you mentioned Doc Rivers. When CP3 was his point guard and the Clippers, I'm like, they're not going to win the title. Not with him as the point guard. To be honest with you, they're not going to win. So we'll see what Philly has a chance to do. But I kind of agree. If CP3's dribbling the air out of the ball and he gets healthy, they're not going to win. So they do need to look at this and be like, that we need a change and keep with this. This is working.
Right.
That's going to be an interesting series. Those last 3 games. That just I like the offensive basketball they're bringing to the table. And as you mentioned, things change fast. So Chelsea, let's go back to what you said and. Steph's gonna play they look completely gassed. You said he's gonna play 5-7 years. I don't know unless completely
7 was for sure too much.
Yeah,
And
they don't have it every night. They don't have it every night, you know?
Yeah, and actually for the first time now that they're using Steph that was one of the adjustments that the Golden State Warriors did, is they put Steph on the ball more.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing his energy level kind of decline, which is something I haven't really seen in the past. Usually, Draymond could be on the ball or somebody else on the ball, and Steph's able to just run around like crazy. But you're seeing the shift. Like it's hard. And Steph played on the ball yesterday. He was exceptional. And in his passing, he had double-digit assists. He had a triple-double on the game, but he shot terribly from three. And maybe that goes down to that energy, meter, Ani, kind of just, having to run around and be on the ball and set things up and make all these passes. And now he doesn't have the legs under him to knock down his threes. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, I think that he's still going to be able to play for several years, and the style of play is just going to have to change. He's going to, turn into a Klay Thompson and be more catch and shoot. But I think his ability to shoot is still going to allow him to be a very formidable NBA player, even in at 38, 39 years of age.
Wow.
I went back and watched. Excuse me. I went back and watched some of those games with Steph. I actually really like him on the ball. His handle's gotten a lot better. Even in Sacramento, I thought him playing on the ball was a difference maker. Just, he got to the paint. He was finishing. He was making threes. I just think this is something he can't do as much this series. He can't get to the basket because AD is just such a, he's such a force in the paint. But I think Golden State's at their best when he is playing on the ball. I think just his ball handling and creating has got so much better. I mean, the way LA, like if you think about it, compared to like back in the day, like pressure used to bother him. Pressure doesn't bother him anymore. So I think he can still play a couple years. I think he can be someone that could still play on the ball. I just think the personnel just has to match with his play. Like, especially when you're going higher, when you're playing teams like LA with the AD in the paint, the team around him has to be suited for him to play longer. If he's still required to exert that much energy for them to even be in the game, then, it's just going to be hard. Then he might as well just try to be a Clay. But I think his playmaking's really improved. I mean, and I hope Jordan Poole takes some notes because he ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. So fortunes can change fast. A year ago, people were saying Jordan Poole's going to keep the dynasty going. Like that just changed fast. And then again, we talk about some of the personnel moves, and then age is winning all the time. Age is always undefeated, as people like to say in basketball terms or in sports terms. So we're going to continue to move on. Again, we appreciate everybody being on for episode 161. As we kind of wrap up, we're going to come back and talk about maybe the EYBL Ani. We're going to talk about Chelsea's pro experience, and then we're going to get ready for the draft. We'll talk about some of the things at Pango's camp, and then some of the things in the Scholastic, which will come very fast. It was a lot of work to do this Life All-American game. I do want to give a shout out again to everybody on the team that contributed. It was a really good event overall. I think the fans saw a good game. And we're seeing some good NBA playoff games, so we'll hopefully continue. We'll continue to watch that as we prepare for the 2023 NBA draft in June. But yeah, like as we mentioned, those things as far as like people's fortune. You look at just in the last year. I just want to close with this. Just in the last year, everybody's like, Steph's the greatest point guard ever. He's gonna win his 5th championship. Is that just social media talking, or like are people just then he looks a little gassed in this series? I did want to mention, too, that shot he took last night. People would have killed Jordan Poole or Klay Thompson for that. That wasn't a good shot. I don't care. I don't know what you did. It was just, Steph, you had 10 seconds on the clock. Is that the fatigue that Chelsea you mentioned? What did you see there, Chelsea? And then Steve Kerr got really mad at Klay Thompson and his shot, a couple of shots he took, too. Talk about that real quick, Chelsea.
I think Steph just let AD off the hook. Yeah. Like, I know he tried to go downhill a little bit on the first shot because the first one was a mid-range. He tried to fake him out a little bit, end up into the mid-range. AD was too long for that. But when Draymond Green got that rebound and threw it back out to Steph, Steph is 6 feet off the three-point line, and AD had came all the way up on him. There was a lot of space. Like, I felt like that was the time that he can, maybe get downhill. If he gets past AD, there's no really rim protector at the rim. Maybe he goes into his floater. But I just felt like there was a lot of space. There was a lot of time. And it definitely was a bad shot, and that was the kind of sealed the deal for the Lakers to win the game.
Sure.
But you talked about just Steph being the best all time and Jordan Poole stinking it up. I think sometimes we're just a prisoner of the moment, and I certainly was a prisoner of the moment with Jordan Poole. I mean, I looked at his offensive package, which I made the mistake of saying that he's a great offensive player. But his offensive package is pretty elite in terms of what he can do. He can do everything. He can get downhill, floater, mid-range, shoot the three. But him as a player has not been great. And when I really dissected what's happening to him and him being unplayable with Golden State, like he might play himself off the roster.
Wow.
He signed that big contract. And I know that they're kind of all in on him, but we've talked about defensively how he's horrendous.
Sure.
Offensively, the skill set, is incredible, but just the decision making out there, the poor shot selection. He sees Steph as his running mate, and he thinks that he can do Steph-like things.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it. And I think the shift in his minutes kind of lets you know that Golden State is not rolling. Right now with him.
Yeah.
They're just not. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I don't know if anybody wants to take that contract too right now based off the way that he's played. It's a lot of money. But I still think that because he's young that he has a chance to kind of turn the tide. Maybe not so much now because the Golden State Warriors are on their way out and the season could be over. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And as far as Steph, being the best PG of all time, as incredible as Steph is, I still have Magic.
Sure.
I've just watched a lot of tape on Magic, just his size and the things he was able to do. Like, I don't ever think we'll be able to see that again, and maybe we'll never see another Steph again, but we have a better chance, in my opinion, of seeing a Steph than seeing a Magic. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Ani?
Yeah, Jordan Poole, they shouldn't trade him. I think they need to give him that contract. You need to prioritize him more, and you may need to let guys like Klay Thompson go. You can't win the championship with this roster. Obviously, you would need a big. If you feel that you need to get the most out of Jordan Poole, even if you need to get the most out of Jordan Poole to get his trade stock up, to eventually trade him, you're going to have to make some roster moves. You're going to have to live with some of these things. Is someone like Klay and them kind of stunting his growth? Then we got to start asking that question. I think there's still a lot there with Jordan Poole. What we saw last year in the playoffs, and we got to also think about this. There is more tape on him now, so these NBA teams really know what he does. Right? Can really take that away. I think he can polish up the playmaking. I think he can give more of a shit on the defensive end, right? Like I think these are things he can't control. But I think I won't say it's the roster's fault, but I do think Golden State, in order to get your money's worth or get close to it, you're going to have to make some changes in the offseason and prioritize him more, right? Ronnie, I was thinking the same thing you were in regards to Steph. Game 7, everyone say, 50 points, greatest Game 7 performance. No one is talking about that no more, right?
No.
I think Steph's playing great. I think he is. Going back to that last play, again, I've been talking about AD. AD played fantastic defense, right? Like he didn't want to drive in the basket because he didn't know where AD was going to be. You can go by AD and he can still recover and still block your shot. The biggest thing is when Draymond got that rebound, he was right there at the rim.
Didn't even look and had Schroeder on him.
Exactly. That's the shot that should have went up, but instead we take a 35 step back 3 from Steph. It was a bad shot, but AD he didn't want to attack AD like that. Steph did not.
Wow. Because I'm thinking, and I saw his body language, and he's looking at it like, guys, I just don't have. What do you want me to do? His shoulders were like slumping. Like this is all I got. If it's not good enough, I'm sorry. This is who I am. So
they should have called a timeout.
There's nothing. Yeah, I thought about that too. And then just that whole sequence of Draymond driving the lane, and he threw an errant pass. LeBron knew the play already, and then Steph kind of grabbing the rebound on the long shot, and then he falls, and was it a foul? Then he just kind of thought maybe Moses Moody was going to grab the ball, and like threw it out of bounds. That was just an odd ending all around. I don't know what Steph was doing there. Maybe thought that they were going to call a foul on him on the replay from 80, like stopped, kept them from landing, but. Very tough ending for Golden State fans, and if they win 3 in a row, I don't think none of us see that. I don't think anybody see that right now, just because, like you said, their energy levels.
Too hard.
Yeah, and so on that note, we'll kind of close out, and like we said, we'll follow these teams. Like you said, maybe they've had to package something on it. If you get Clay and Moses Moody and a first-round pick, that's not. You can get something good, maybe a 4-man or a big guy. They have some assets. Again, we talk about Oklahoma City's assets to get better, and then they got Chet Holmgren coming back. We talk about Houston definitely needs to make some moves. So we're gonna follow that as this offseason comes on and culminated with the draft, and then we'll get into the summer. So on that note, I think we're gonna end for this episode 161. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and again, go watch the replay of the Ballislife game. We have a lot of content coming up, end of the season stuff as we get into the summer. So for Chelsea Hopkins, on Umana, so long till next time. We'll talk to you then.
Bye, guys.